Hey, what's up, guys? So we are back, and so far we've done a get request, we've done a delete request, we've done a post request. What we haven't done is the update part, and that's basically going to be a put request. Okay, so we're basically what that means. The difference between a post request and a put request is that a post request is adding an entire brand new piece of state to the API. The put request, it picks it up, changes it, and then puts it back in. So it's a put request. Okay. Now, have all the people done updates with post requests instead of put? Yes, it has been done. I've seen it done, and it's arguable whether it's the right way to do it or not. To be honest, I never really have gone out of my way to to argue or defend that point. So all right, so let's do the put request on this toggle reminder. Now there's two ways that I want to do this. One is I want to do this toggle reminder as a put request right from in here, but eventually I want to add an edit screen where I can edit or update these fields as well, so I can change my task names and things like that, and not just being able to add or change the state of the notification. But for now, just to keep it simple, I'm just going to do just the reminder alone. Okay, we'll do the other stuff eventually later on, because for that I kind of want to make use of routing and see, and open up an edit page and all that stuff, and I'm gonna need routing for that, and that's something that's still yet to come. So I'll keep it simple for now and just do this one, just so you can see the put request in action. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is that we need to be able to call back first one of the actual piece of the actual task that we're going to change, right? So instead of using this entire fetch task that is calling all of the task, we're going to basically call this and make a copy of it. So you just copy that, and we're gonna do we did that. Okay, let's just do what we've been doing so far and put this. I'm gonna drag this up here. There you go. And I'm going to what is this, post request? Yeah, I'm going to name that post request just so we can keep things clean. Okay, and then here I am going to paste my my fetch tasks that I had up there, and this is where I'm going to do the put request. I'm going to start my put request in here. Now this one is going to be a singular task, so I'm just going to put fetch task. Okay, and then it's still going to be an async await type call, and then but I am going to call the ID this time. I'm going to reference to it by the unique identifier that I can call it by, which is going to be the ID. All right, and then in the response, which is still going to be an await it's going to await a promise, I am going to then at the end add the ID that I want to reference to, right? So I'm going to get the root task for the location, and then in that location I want the ID as a kind of like a parameter at the end of the domain. Okay, and everything else is going to be just fine, just the way it is. Now in the const reminder here, so now we got to do a couple of changes here. So first thing we got to do is we got to turn this into an async synchronous call, and then in there just open up some space, and then I'm gonna create a variable here. I'm gonna call this task to toggle. Right, so these are the task that I'm going to toggle, and that's going to await a response that is going to be the fetch task by ID. All right, so this is going to await this request basically. Okay, so far so good. Then now I'm going to create another variable here. I'm going to call that update task, so that I can create an object that is going to have the updated task, right? On what I actually want to change. I'm going to have two parameters in there, two arguments. One is I am going to spread out my task to toggle, right? I'm gonna spread out what I get back, right? What I this promise, because this is gonna return back to me that particular task, right? By this ID. And then I'm going to grab that, put it in here and spread it out, break it apart basically into objects, so that then I can pass to it, or update rather, the actual, basically this right here. I'm doing exactly this right here, and I'm doing it here, but I'm not using the task anymore. I'm using the task to toggle because that's the new one that I'm actually pulling from this promise. So I'm just going to task to toggle, yep, task to toggle reminder. So yeah, so basically I'm spreading my promise back, spreading it out, and updating the reminder property in it for the reverse, the opposite of what that would be. So if it's true, it will be false. If it's false, it will be true. Make sense? All right, so that's done. And then now, so now we're going to do the response. We're going to actually start pulling the data, and that's going to await a call to a fetch. This is very similar to the way that we fetch the the API, the post request. So I'm actually gonna call it up here, but before I do that, I actually want to pull this, because the actual one that I'm going to be pulling is going to be the one by ID. So before I go crazy, I want to make sure that I do that. And then I'm going to open up my second argument here. Now in here, I can come up here and grab this right here, this body, method, all of that good stuff, and put all that soup in there. All right, so that's basically, now it's going to be a put, because we're creating a put request. The headers are still going to be the same. The body is still going to be a JSON stringify. The only thing that we aren't getting is we're not getting the task. We're getting the updated task. So we are changing that in there. And then now we come up here and we get we make that call to the data in there. And then the only thing that we need to do here now in the task, in the set task right here, is let's see, we are right here. We are changing that to data. So basically, we are now grabbing, when we change not change, but you know what I mean by change, when we update the state, right? Because all this did is basically just fetched some data to me, but I have to update the state separately through set task. Without this, you're still only just getting data, which you could console log it, you could do a bunch of stuff to it, but you're not going to actually be changing it unless you actually call set task. And then here we're going to basically do what we did before. We're going to spread out, we're going to map through the entire tasks, and then we're going to single out where the task ID equals the ID that I'm clicking to it. Then we're going to spread out the task, and then we're going to make that reminder equal to whatever data reminder we got from this entire fetch that we did here. And if this doesn't match, if this is false, then basically just leave the task the way it is. Make sense? Say yes. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and save that now, make sure that everything runs. One thing I haven't done is I haven't really checked on my console to see if there's any errors. Everything is fine there, so I'm just gonna close that, and that should be already refreshed. So I'm gonna go ahead and change that, and you see now that the throwaway, you see this put down here, that means it did a put request. The put request worked, and the throwaway garbage is now updated. If I do a refresh, it's still updated. So beautiful, we got the put request to work. So, well, that pretty much is the entire CRUD system working with an API and everything. So my suggestion is, when you get a job, for example, and make use of this JSON server, okay? If you don't have an API yet, make use of this JSON server. Even if you're doing your own development and your own thing in your own, personal plane, make use of a JSON server on your own development thing, and then try to mimic the whatever API you're supposed to get, by basically constructing this similarly or identically to it. That way you can make all of the changes you want without affecting any real APIs, or it's kind of like your own development little world there. And then once you know that everything is working and you're not going to mess up any data that you shouldn't mess up, then all you have to do is just basically go to whatever you defined your root right here and just change that root for the real API, and everything else should work fine, assuming that your DB-JSON and the API call that you get back are identical, because everything else will still be called the same. Everything will be the same. The only thing is that this will be producing a real API instead of this localhost 3001. So if your API is going to be in mydomain.com/API, then that's what it's going to say there. It's going to say mydomain.com/API instead of localhost. Okay, so it's a good way to do things without messing everything up, unless you have an API, a testing API that you can mess up and nobody will care. Okay, most places will give you a test API to mess with, and then the real production API is safeguarded somewhere else, and the backend guy is going to be the one that is going to make that change whenever it needs to go into production. But if you don't have one, use JSON server, because you can do anything you want to JSON server and it will be local. All right, so that's all I can show you for right now. On the next steps, we're going to now add routing to this application so that we can do something to this menu items here, and as well as create maybe an icon here for the edit that opens up a different page, and depending on the item that you clicked, it will populate that form, the edit form, and then you can make changes to it, submit, and it will all apply to this page whenever you get back to it. Okay, all right, you guys have a good day, and I will see you on the next one.